Chief Os's lodge sat in the middle of nowhere, a relic along a forgotten road deep in the Nigerian countryside. The lodge's once proud reputation had long faded, leaving its owner, Chief Os, a bitter, isolated man of 60. He sat behind the reception desk in the dim light of a single bulb, counting the hours until another empty day passed. The hum of the night's insects was the only company he had, until the sharp sound of heels clicking against the concrete reached his ears. The door swung open, and in walked Mabel. She was striking, an elegant woman of around 30, dressed in sleek black. She exuded wealth, a presence far too polished for the decaying lodge. Chief O stared at her, his brows furrowing in confusion. He couldn't recall the last time someone so glamorous had wandered into his failing business. "I need a room," she said in a low, smooth voice. Chief O's cleared his throat, trying to shake off his surprise. "We're not exactly known for luxury here," he replied, his voice gruff. "Are you sure you want to stay?" Mabel's lips curved into a thin smile. "I'm sure. I like places with history." There was something in her eyes, cold, unreadable. Still, Chief Os handed her the key to room 13. His fingers trembled slightly as she took it. She glanced at the key, then back at him, her gaze lingering a moment too long. As she walked down the hallway, Chief Os couldn't shake a nagging feeling of familiarity. But it was impossible. He'd never seen this woman before in his life, had he? The night crept on, yet sleep eluded him. Chief Os lay in bed, his mind troubled. Old memories surfaced, unwelcome. Midnight came and went, and still, he couldn't rest. Something about Mabel unsettled him deeply. With a sigh, he swung his legs off the bed and decided to check on the lodge, a nervous habit he hadn't indulged in years. As he approached room 13, a sense of foreboding washed over him. He hesitated, then knocked softly. "Everything okay in there?" His voice cracked in the silence. The door creaked open slowly. Mabel stood in the center of the room, dressed in the same sleek black, her face illuminated by the weak light from the hallway. Her eyes met his, and there was something darker in them now, something dangerous. "You shouldn't have come," she said softly. Chief Os's heart skipped. What are you talking about?" Mabel stepped aside, revealing a small black case on the bed. She unzipped it with deliberate care, pulling out a pistol fitted with a silencer. Chief Os's breath caught in his throat. His legs buckled. What are you doing?" Mabel looked at the gun, then back at him. "You don't remember, do you?" Chief O swallowed hard, his mind spinning. "Remember what?" She smiled, cold and cruel. "You left my mother. You left me. You walked away like we were nothing." His world shifted. Memories came crashing back, her mother, the woman he had left all those years ago, pregnant and alone. He'd been a young, ambitious man then, and he'd left without a second thought. "Mabel," he whispered, the realization hitting him like a blow. She nodded, her eyes darkening. "I've spent my life waiting for this moment, Chief. For you to pay for what you did to us. Please," he begged, backing away, his hands trembling. "I'm sorry. I was young, foolish." Mabel's voice was steady, calm. "My mother died, Chief. She died of heartbreak, waiting for you. She called your name with her last breath. And I was left with nothing but anger." She raised the gun, her finger hovering over the trigger. "I didn't come here for your apology. I came to end this." Terror gripped him. "Mabel, no, please." Her eyes never wavered. "This is for my mother." The muffled thwip of the silence shot echoed in the small room. Chief Os crumpled to the floor, the life draining from his eyes before he even registered the pain. Mabel stared down at his body, unblinking. Slowly, she tucked the gun back into its case, zipped it up, and placed it back in her bag. Calmly, she wiped a single speck of blood from her cheek. The lodge was silent once more, save for the steady click of Mabel's heels as she walked down the hallway and disappeared into the night.